Hello and welcome to Bury Our Bones With, the show that lives, breathes and dies the classic movies you love. We are your hosts, me, Jimmy Murphy, and with me as always, the Dances with Wolves to my Dances for Loose Change, Mr. Ryan Etherington. In today's show, we'll be burying our bones with Guy Ritchie's 2000 Cockney crime comedy, Snatch. So join us as we put carrier bags on our feet, swap our mansions for caravans, our received pronunciation for a Mockney swagger, and squeeze Gaz's balls so hard he sharts a diamond.
Michael Caine's Tangerine Sunscreen. Order now to receive your complimentary telescopic applicator for when you need to apply your own bloody suntan lotion. Also available from the Michael Caine Tangerine Sunscreen collection are Harry Brown Bronzer. The Michael Caine Tangerine Sunscreen collection from the Michael Caine Tangerine Emporium. Because some people don't want to watch your skin burn.
So, right. Right, so, Snatch.
2000.
2000. Before we start, fair warning, I am pretty sure this episode is going to have a lot of swearing in it.
It's very difficult to talk about the film and quote the film when half the film, if not more, is
constant.
Is blue language.
Yeah. I mean, it's a violent movie with a lot of swearing. Normally, we would go out of our way to minimise such foul, potty language. I think it's going to be unavoidable. I think we're just going to have to go for it today. So you have been warned. There's going to be a lot of fucking.
Ease him into it, Christ.
There's going to be a lot of swearing. So Snatch. When did you first see Snatch?
I think my parents rented it from good old Blockbuster.
Good old Blockbuster.
And I remember when they used to rent stuff that I wasn't allowed to watch, they used to put it on the top shelf for the cupboards in the kitchen.
Right. And
I remember having a little sneaky peek around when I think they were out or something. My sister was looking after me. And I stuck it in and it just felt naughty.
Mm-hmm. That whole sentence sounded wrong.
Well. Oh, yeah, I just heard it back. Yeah. Okay.
It should feel naughty.
Wow. Start as you mean to go on, son.
3 minutes in.
I think it's very closely linked to what I see essentially as its spiritual predecessor in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah.
The way I kind of see it is that this is as close to a sequel to Lock, Stock as you're going to get. It's essentially Lock, Stock on a slightly bigger budget. Not a huge budget, but slightly bigger.
Yeah, he said he was quite keen not to make Lock, Stock and Three Smoking Barrels when he set out to make Snatch.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what he made.
Isn't it?
Pretty much. It's the bigger, lairier version of Lock, Stock, isn't it? It's Lock, Stock on Red Bull, you know what I mean?
Yeah, great way of putting it. Great way of putting it. Yeah, like I remember watching it and thinking, just there's so many like dodgy, lovable characters. You know, you really wouldn't necessarily want to know any of these people in real life.
No.
But there's something heartwarming about pretty much all of them, maybe besides Bricktop.
Well, Bricktop's an interesting one because after I watched the movie yesterday, I've got the special edition with the extra making of DVDs.
Very posh.
It's about 27 minutes long. And he talks about Bricktop. And he said he wanted to make him really unlikable, just like disgusting. And he was going to make him a paedophile. Do you know this?
Oh, no, I didn't hear that.
He was going to make him a paedophile to make him really unlikable. And he said he was working with, I'm not going to do the accent he does, but he was working with a Brazilian person. He said, yeah, paedophiles are one thing.
Yes, I do know
But everyone in your country loves dogs. And he was like, you should make him kill dogs, basically, like a dog. Training dogs for dog fights. And he went, oh, that is worse than a paedophile. I don't think it is. And he said, but the opening scene, when you see Bricktop, he's poking the dog with a stick, apparently he was amazed that people still liked him. He was like, apparently made him more lovable in a weird way.
It's weird because we should hate everything about him.
Yeah.
But he's so endlessly quotable that you can't help but love him.
It's amazing way it's shot. It's not Michael Caine.
It's like he's
talking for his
it's like he's always trying to get something out of his teeth.
Come again.
Yeah. Put a lead on her, Turkish, before she gets bitten.
Fuck me, your lady friend got a voice.
Pull your tongue out of my arsehole, Gary.
My personal favourite bit of his it's like when he, I don't care if he's Mohammed, I'm Art Bruce Lee.
It's brilliant because it's such a rubbish line.
Yeah, it's like the line is falling apart.
You can just see he's like, oh, I had this. Oh, no, I've lost it. But it works so well.
I saw this film in the cinema when it came out. A friend of mine, who you know, Neil, dragged me to see it. I wasn't overly keen. I didn't actually think that much of Lock, Stock, to be honest. I thought it's not that I think it's a bad film, and I've since changed my opinion on it. I actually do think it's a good movie. I didn't really care that much. I think it was the hype was too much for me. I was like, I'm not that interested.
A lot of it came with obviously Vinnie Jones's first feature film, and obviously that's going to have a certain level of hype. So I wasn't overly keen, and I went to watch Snatch, and I was like, this movie is excellent. Actually, it's a really good movie. So it would have been 2000 when it came out. Yeah, I mean, I personally prefer Lock, Stock.
Yeah.
I think I said this a couple of weeks ago to you. It doesn't mean I think Snatch is a lesser film. It is the better film. But you know how sometimes you know everything's better about it. You know it's a better film, but for some reason you prefer, you know...
Something about that.
I think there's something about the narrative in Lock, Stock, which I think is a little bit... I like... Obviously it does this in Snatch, where you've got all of these seemingly separate storylines and subplots, and they all come together. I like the way that Lock, Stock does that a little bit more than it does it in Snatch. Still think it's great in Snatch, but it's just something about it. Plus it's got Lenny McLean, and he's a character, you know.
No, I've always preferred Snatch. I think I might watch Lock, Stock like within the next couple of days to see how I feel about it, having now watched that. I haven't watched Snatch for a long time. So I might go back and revisit Lock, Stock. I like I said, I've already revisited it and reassessed how I felt about Lock, Stock after the hype had died down. It is a great movie. This is a really good movie. It is, like I say, it's basically Lock, Stock Part 2. Even though all the characters are different, they're the same.
Bigger budget, more eyes on it. You know, said it earlier, bigger and better. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's just. It's one of those films that you can just have on in the background and just instantly be sort of magnetised to it, because you know it's not going to be that long before there's a great line or a great little quip from, you know, one of the many ragtag characters who are like, when you're given a small role, you could very easily go, like, for example, Frankie Four Fingers, Benicio del Toro. He's not in it a lot. He's not got much to do. I'm assuming that's not him with the tea cozy on his head for the middle part of the film. Well,
I'm assuming he'd gone home at that point.
Maybe he's that dedicated. You could quite easily kind of just phone it in, you know, dial in the performance. But I think the beauty of the writing is that all of those characters are really, really important. They all have their own place in the narrative. It's not, this is a throwaway character. This is, you know, even the dude who's making sausages for Turkish. 2 minutes Turkish. It was 2 minutes 5 minutes ago. Yeah, you know, it's just.
Excuse me, it's just belting. We got that bit on.
We put that on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, there isn't a bad character in this movie. Like, it's all well placed. It's all well observed. It's all servicing the film. The thing I really did butt up against watching it this time, I hadn't watched it for a long time, is there's no depth to this film. And like, somewhere around the third act, I was, because I've seen it so many times, I was kind of just like, can we just get to the end now? It's not the film's fault. The film is what the film is. and it's great. But I couldn't work out why I was slightly bored by it. It's like I love this film, but there was a part of me that was like, I mean, it was late and I was tired, but I was like, that doesn't normally happen. Normally, once I'm invested, and I've always, like I say, I've always loved this film, which is why I'd be interested to go back to see Lock, Stock, see if it has the same effect on me. But I think it's because there's no depth. Like this film to me, it's like this is like Danny Boyle. I'm going to say Danny Boyle in a minute. Guy Ritchie. This is Guy Ritchie's peak, really, isn't it? It's like his zenith. He had Lock, Stock, and then this, and then I mean, I like the Sherlock Holmes movie.
Good movies.
The first one's good movie. Yeah. The one he did with the Sons of Anarchy bloke, was it Henry the
Gentleman?
No, the
King Arthur.
I
haven't watched it.
We'll get to that later, but jeez. So I was watching it, and I was very aware. I was like, oh, it's very Tarantino-esque in that same way that Tarantino's movies aren't particularly deep. They're like cartoons. Like the violence in this is very cartoonish, the same way Tarantino's films are quite cartoon violence. It's really violent, but it's comedic at the same time, which gives it that sort of Looney Tunes edge to it. Guy Ritchie does the same thing. And some of the dialogue, like the opening dialogue in when he's the Virgin Mary, mistranslated, that's such Tarantino dialogue. And the milk dialogue. Humans have evolved to digest milk, blah, blah, blah. It's very Tarantino-esque. But what I was really struck with when I was watching it, I couldn't stop thinking, this is what Minder, the TV series from the 80s with Arthur Daly in, this is what Minder would look like if it was directed by Danny Boyle. Because the film is really early Boyle. It's really train spotting with gangsters instead of junkies. Do you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there is nothing wrong with essentially taking, like, a pretty much a standard in British cinema is the British gangster film. Like, it goes all the way back to Get Carter, you know. Bob Hoskins comes up this every episode.
Finally, we have an actual reason to talk about Bob Hoskins as opposed to just shoehorning him into every episode.
It's crazy. He somehow finds his way into every conversation we have, doesn't he? Mostly that wasn't really our fault, though. He just kept turning up in casting things from the 80s, and now it's stuck, you know.
I'll get Bob for you.
Yeah. But yeah, so he like films like Mona Lisa and
Long Good
Friday, yeah, which I have in my further watching. So it's stable, but he put a little Tarantino-esque and a little Danny Boyle train spotting filter onto those films. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you can see the influence. We live in pretty much a postmodern age of cinema anyway. Tarantino is the king of postmodern. He takes bits from everywhere and sticks it together into something new. Like we said before, there's very little you can do in this day and age, from ideas to concepts that hasn't already been done. You are homaging, whether you mean to or not. You're either homaging or direct ripping off or inspired by something that's happened. At this point, it is unavoidable. Cinema has been around for so long that it's all been done before. Guy Ritchie does it really well on this film. You can see the influences. They're there, up front and centre. It's done so well. But there is no depth to it. There is no, like, on the making of documentary I was watching, they were asking all the actors, what's the film about? And they're all going, we don't know. Like, it just feels like a bunch of set pieces. But those set pieces obviously all come together and tell a story. And the story's a good story. It's pretty, it's a diamond heist and all of that. But yeah, I was struck, and I don't know whether it was just my mood. I felt like I needed just a little bit more this time when I was watching it. It's not that it ruined the film. I just felt like there was I wasn't as invested in it as I've previously been when watching.
Whilst I didn't get that when I was watching it yesterday, I do understand where you're coming from. I don't think anybody in this film or when they were making this film from an acting point of view went, okay, what's my character's motivation here? Yeah. You know, it's not that
all
style.
Dialogue,
it's all just it's almost very situational comedy in the sense of, is the situation, is the script, bang, go.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Guy Ritchie is very...
It's almost like a sketch show within a sitcom, isn't it?
Yeah,
almost in that sort of League of Gentlemen kind of way when you think
it has a through line and a through narrative, but essentially you can take them out of context and it works, and it's still, you know, that the chemistry and the scenes with Vinny, Sol, and Tyrone, they're, as you say, they're like a sketch show, and they are hilarious. I think those three are my favourite characters. They're absolutely so funny the whole time.
Yeah, I've got to tell, Tyrone is in contention for stealing the movie for me. He's down there with two other people.
I've got a funny story about Tyrone.
Yeah.
So I went to university with a guy called Tyrone. If you're listening, hi. He's a lovely guy, and because I think a few of the people in the class had seen Snatch recently and had said something along the lines of, "You're a natural at that, ain't you, Tyrone?" And
of course I am.
Obviously, I don't think Tyrone had seen it, so didn't know. This is my interpretation of that situation anyway. And so it just became a thing where we would say something and he would go, "Of course I am," And so whenever I see that, I get transported back to my days at uni.
A natural what?
It's just
only the next one's a natural
brilliant.
effing idiot, isn't it?
Yeah. I just think, the chemistry between the chemistry between every character in every scene is so on point.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps a large proportion of that is it's a mixture of what you would call proper actors and a mixture of Guy Ritchie's mates, essentially, who happen to be actors and happen to do a bit of theatre and all of that kind of thing. Jason Statham notoriously got his start in the acting game in a Kit Kat advert.
Is that right?
And
he was in a Shaman video. Have you ever seen that?
No.
He's like in a pair of Speedos wheeled up dancing. It's quite strange.
Speedos are quite closely linked because he
think
was
they're gold Speedos.
He was a professional diver.
He was a professional diver, that's right.
And when you see his physique in later films like Transporter, etc.,
what's the football one he does with Vinny Jones?
Mean Machine. English remake of Longest Yard. He's playing the monk.
That's right.
Which was I think that was produced by Guy Ritchie. It wasn't directed, but it's definitely produced. Yeah. That's a great film as well. I think it has that kind of energy. Sometimes when you watch a really good example of this is England. There's a scene in one of them.
Stephen Graham as well.
Combo. There's a scene between I can't remember her name, but Vicky McClure's character.
Yeah.
Where I think her stepfather, who's not a nice guy.
That actor is a superb actor. He's a film called, I think it's called London to Brighton.
Yes, yeah.
He plays villains so well.
He's just got that face that looks
unnerving.
Yeah. But there's a scene where she basically goes around. She's gonna kill him basically.
That's right. Yeah.
And
with a hammer.
I've never seen so much of a scene where the whole scene is based on vibe and the feeling. There's not much of a script. It was all improvised, but you just get this angst and this kind of dangerous feeling. And I think maybe not in terms of the danger, but in terms of the chemistry and the vibe of Snatch, and same with Lock, Stock. A lot of it comes from people just having a laugh and having a bit of fun, and
the amount of fun they had making it clearly leaks through the celluloid, doesn't it? It's there. It's palpable when you watch it. You'd be easy to dismiss it by saying, "Oh, they're just clearly having a laugh," because it could ruin a movie quite easily. A bunch of self-serving, aren't we great? Doesn't have that.
No.
But they are clearly, like you say, they're clearly enjoying being in a film with each other, making this film and shooting this dialogue. The chemistry is palpable in every scene. Like you say, there is that mixture of some of the lines are delivered in an amateurish way, somehow adds to the charm to it in a weird sort of way. Like Jason's, I think it's Statham's best film. I think it's his best. I think it's the best thing he's done. But some of his delivery is off in it. He's not quite found his feet yet.
The only thing that I totally agree with you. The bits for me that really feel out of place is every time he goes the Germans. Yeah. I've never quite got that.
Well, I think it's I assume it's a nod to the English preoccupation with the war. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, sorry. I get the joke. I've just never got why that's there, because it feels very forced. Yeah,
100%. It comes across like a thread that they dropped halfway through.
Maybe it's in a deleted scene where it's explored a bit more.
Like I wondered if it was a thread that they dropped.
Yeah.
Like there was more to it and it just didn't make it into the final film. Because I do know what you mean. It does stand out. The first time I watched it, I didn't notice it so much. So maybe it's just a repeat viewing thing.
Every time I've watched it, that's always been the thing where it's been like, it just all of a sudden feels, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head where you said, he's very similar to Tarantino. And I think that's the other side of things of going, well, these guys on screen are having fun with the script and they're playing around. But it works because I think Guy Ritchie, I don't know if he's a perfectionist, but he seems, from what I've seen of the making of it, he knows what he wants. And
that's my understanding.
Yeah, I think there's a bit where he has a conversation with Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Jones is saying, I don't think I should say that. And he's basically just like, I'm not one who wrote the script, Vinnie. You just be on the camera.
Right?
Very similar to the,
The thing I saw Vinnie Jones was saying, I kept referring to him because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm an apprentice. You're going to have to tell me what to do because I don't know. And it seems to have quite a nice collaborative relationship like that. Like, the Evie, pull up your socks.
Yeah.
They tried a few different lines. So like, Evie, tie up your shoelaces and all this sort of stuff.
Touch your toes. Yeah.
So, stuff like that. But yeah, from what I can gather from what I saw yesterday, they were saying Ritchie knows what he wants, but he's also completely open to it changing. If it works, it works.
Which is a great way. Yeah, I think you can go almost too much the opposite way of saying this is what I want, and you can't be told that actually that idea isn't very good.
But famously, Kevin Smith, for the first part of his career when he was making really good movies, was apparently really opposed to ad-libbing. Was like, stop, don't, this is what I wrote, say it. He later said in later life it's because he wasn't working with anyone who could act and they couldn't ad-lib well, so they changed stuff and it was awful. He said, I've never actually minded if what you change is better. He said, I would always feel guilty. He said, I think it was on Dogma when he was working with Chris Rock, and Chris Rock changed some lines and they were hilarious. And he's like, do I have to give him a writing credit now? And they're like, that's not how it works, mate. Yeah. But there's a nice, honest approach to it, I suppose, isn't it? So like you say, it can go the other way. Some directors are like, that's how I wrote it. That's how it has to be. I have a vision. Apparently Ritchie knows what he wants, but he's, like I say, he's open to it changing. If it works, it works.
Quite a big collaborator, isn't he?
And that comes across again, that sense, the film feels not necessarily organic, but it has a natural feel to it. Like, the people they're portraying are supposed to be like the sort of people you would meet in London. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's different because we're from England. We're just up the road from us here. So in a way, it feels very familiar and very cartoonish at the same time, you know what I mean? We've all met people after they've seen these films, walking around talking like that all the time.
It's one step away from Jay from The In-Betweeners, isn't it?
Yeah. Everyone's met people like that. I can't remember where I was going with this, but yeah, it's very collaborative, sort of open thing, isn't it? You know, and that natural feel when an actor is allowed to relax into doing what needs to be done for the scene and allowed to experiment within those parameters, it comes through. You know?
One of the first things that I made a note about was when the scene where Brad Pitt is looking at the caravan burning. I said that his performance there is the difference between a good actor and a great actor.
Right.
But that was the point where I was like, oh, that's Brad Pitt, the movie star. Like, that's him acting. Like, not that he's not anywhere else, but it was like, oh, that's like elite level stuff. That's like, the rest of it is like, oh, this is quite funny. But as you say, there's no real kind of like depth to it.
Yeah, well, it's a comedy, isn't
it's very surface level stuff, which is obviously totally understandable. And that was the point where I went, oh, like, that's Brad Pitt. Like, not in a distracting way, but in a, that's Brad Pitt, that big actor, you know? Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing with, like you say, you get an actor of that caliber in a movie with varying degrees of talent, shall we say. Moments like that are needed. You need a good actor. It's interesting, like, apparently Brad Pitt contacted Guy Ritchie himself.
Ritchie said, I saw Lock, Stock, I'll do anything. And Guy Ritchie, well, I mean, we'll get bums on seats with Brad Pitt, but actually used him in a really good way.
Yeah, because initially they were going to have him with a London accent, but he struggled with the accent.
Is that right?
And also there was so when Lock, Stock was released, they one of the some of the critiques of it, not so much from an English audience but from an American audience, was that they couldn't understand the characters. Yeah. So Guy Ritchie was like, okay, well, let's have a character who not only the audience can't understand but the characters can't either. Yeah. And obviously then tie that in with we've got Brad Pitt, can't really do the London accent, and then you have him playing Mickey,
Yeah. And they make great pains to say it's not really English, it's not really Irish, it's just sort of in between. Yeah. Interestingly enough, like when they were making the film, when the making of I watched, they were talking about the P word, shall we say, and they were going, "Oh, it's really quite an offensive word. You're not supposed to call travellers that word." And then, like, Jason Statham says to Guy Ritchie, he's like, "It's said a lot in this movie." And he's like, "Well, it's just a movie, isn't it?" And it's like, I don't think you could do it now, I'd never heard the expression before the movie, to be honest. It was the first time I'd ever heard that expression.
Probably
I thought he'd made it up, but apparently not. Apparently it's a derogatory term for travelling folk.
Well, it didn't stop people going to see the film. So...
It doesn't stop people using the word now, to be honest.
No. So, budget-wise, it was made on a budget of $7.2 million, which is about £6 million.
It's pretty cheap.
Converted for today's money, about 10.7 million. So, ironically, similar sort of money to what Terminator was spent. Okay, inflation-wise, difference,
but about 16 with inflation on it. Yeah.
Not too dissimilar. Unfortunately, it didn't have a very good opening weekend.
Did it not?
No, it only made about 22 grand.
Wow, why was that?
I think because it came out December, just after Christmas in 2000. Because because
I don't remember seeing it. I must have saw it in the new year.
Because the US release was slightly after, and that was January 19th, 2001.
Wow.
So I think it was, and since that point, Guy Ritchie has a habit of releasing films like on Boxing Day. He's like both
That's
Sherlock Holmes films he released on Boxing Day, and he was asked about it on an episode of Top Gear. He was like, why Boxing Day? And he's like, well, because everybody's too busy stuffing their face on Christmas Day. Whereas in America, I think it's a bit more of a norm to release on Christmas Day.
Huh. So was that in this country? It only made 22 grand.
22 grand.
Wow.
And it's on its opening weekend.
That's crazy. They must have been some clenched sphincters at that point.
Yeah. And then it did go on to make a bit more.
I was going to say, it wasn't a flop. It
wasn't a flop, no. So gross US and Canada, it made about 30 million.
That's
not bad, is it?
Yeah.
So about 25, give or take, million.
Yeah.
And then worldwide, it made about 83 million, 68 million quid.
You're laughing at that point, aren't you?
Yeah. It's, for what is
just
essentially
a slow burner, was it? It just took a minute to catch up.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things of release schedule and times are kind of everything. And if it's going to be released at a time where not a lot of people are going to the movies, especially where it's set in England, where that's going to potentially be a big chunk of your market, because
usually a movie will just sink at that point. It's very rare for a movie to then catch on and go on to do that after such a poor opening weekend. Especially now, if a movie has a poor opening weekend, it's pretty much finished, isn't it? They won't even leave it on at the cinema much past a month, will they?
Yeah. So it is quite surprising. So I think probably what happened was, the buzz from Lock, Stock was still kind of palpable in the air, and perhaps the marketing may not have been too prevalent until after its opening weekend. So as I say, January 19th 2001 release in the US, so just slightly after.
That's right, because I always think of it as being a 2001 film, but if it came out at the end of the year in 2000, that makes sense.
It's more 2001 than it is 2000, right. Really, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure I must have seen it in the new year. I definitely didn't see it around Christmas. So it must
Doesn't feel like a Christmas film, does it?
When you said that, I would have sworn it was released in summer, like just from my memory, as it were. But yeah, I must have seen it in the January.
I mean, I could be wrong on that. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So yeah, obviously we said it was directed by Guy Ritchie. He also wrote the script as well, and it was produced by Matthew Vaughn. The composer is John Murphy, and the cinematographer is Tim Morris-Jones. And I think all of those, apart from Matthew Vaughn, have a little cameo in the film.
The cinematographer's definitely in it. I think he plays one of the
rabbis at the start.
That's right.
Guy Ritchie's in the pub looking at the paper in one of the scenes.
Is he really? I didn't notice.
And I think John Murphy is also in it as well. I think you said earlier, I think he might have been the guy with the tea cozy on his head.
Is that right?
Yeah. I could be wrong, but I think...
I had an eye out for Matthew Vaughn. I didn't spot him in there. But I spotted the cinematographer.
I don't think Matthew Vaughn was in there. I think he was the only one out of the names I've just mentioned that wasn't in there. Those are the people who made the film. And then just moving on to the cast and the character names. So we've got Brad Pitt playing Mickey O'Neill.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. Is that Bradley Pitt?
Bradley Pitt.
We got Mike Reed playing Doug the Head.
Also in contention for stealing this movie.
The voice alone, isn't it? Yeah. You know, first thing I thought of when you said, right, we're going to do Snatch, my first thoughts were, Avi! You know, Jason Statham
We've got beaches.
It's just brilliant.
I mean, Mike Reed, superb performance.
For English viewers, probably most Frank Butcher.
Frank Butcher, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know if he's that big in the US. I don't know if a lot of US viewers will probably not know who he is other than this film if they've seen it.
I was really pleased.
But he's a
stand-up comedian.
Old blue comic, yeah.
I was really pleased when he was in this movie because it was nice to see someone using him for something other than Frank Butcher. He's great as Frank Butcher. If you're into EastEnders and soap operas and all that, he was iconic. The
show
character.
Died after he left, I'll tell you.
It's never the same.
Yeah.
Do you remember them adverts he did for, I think it was like fridge yogurts or something, or fridge milkshakes, and he's walking through a field of cows and he stands in a cow pat and he just starts going, Pat, what have you done to me, Pat?
That's brilliant. That's great.
Genius. For those of you that don't know, Pat was the name of his wife in the soap opera he was in. Pat.
Yeah, I don't think that's just a bit of genius cast in there, isn't it?
He's so good in this film. Yeah.
We got Jason Statham, as we mentioned earlier, playing Turkish. Mm-hmm. As he mentions, he's named after the flight his mum and dad met on.
Is that right? I missed that.
Yeah, it says it at the start. It doesn't really explain.
Is that just before he talks about like, Tommy's named after a ballerina?
Yeah. We got Lenny James playing Sol, who perhaps most people know him from The Walking Dead.
Yeah. That was funny enough. When he turned up in The Walking Dead, I was like, Sol.
He's one of those actors as well that is really underrated.
Yeah.
Everything he's in, I should say everything I've seen him in, he's been absolutely great in it.
Yeah.
We got Robbie G playing Vinny. Or Vincent.
Also great, Vincent.
Yeah.
I'll be much better if you stop using my name.
What exactly can he get away from? Just brilliant.
It was at a funny angle. Sorry,
you're reversing. Every time you reverse, things usually come at you from behind you. Just that.
Don't let that dog dribble on my seats.
Just keep that dog.
Tyrone?
Off my seats.
It's a stolen car. When I'm driving it, it's my car.
Just brilliant. Line after line after line.
You can keep that silly fat fuck. The boys can't carry him. This podcast is going to be messy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's going to be.
Unless you know, I mean, I'm assuming people listen to this would have seen the film.
You'd hope.
Yeah, because it wouldn't make sense listening to this then going and watch the film because the film's ruined by the time you listen to this podcast.
Oh yeah, totally ruined. Yeah.
So I'm assuming they'll know that the references.
They'll know what we're referring to. We got Stephen Graham playing Tommy.
Yeah. Who I didn't realise was Scouser until I heard him
proper
talking.
Thick Scouser.
He does a really good Mockney.
Yeah. He got the part just on a whim. I think a friend of his was going to an audition or something, and I think he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll go for that." And they asked, "Can you improvise?" And he went, "Yeah, sure." And he was like, "Never done it before." That's how he got the role, apparently.
Nice, yeah.
We've got Alan Ford playing Bricktop.
Oh, superb.
Great character.
Superb.
Do you know why he's called Bricktop?
I do not.
He's called Bricktop because that's an old slang term for somebody with ginger hair. So apparently, when he was a kid, Bricktop had ginger hair, so he's called Bricktop.
Right. I didn't know that. Yeah, never.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
We got Jason.
Chalk Shite is talking through his dentures, and he all charged. Always a bit. I think it's Turkish. I'm sweet enough.
You got all the traits of a dog, Gary. Part loyalty.
I've got no time for grasses. You're a ruthless little bastard, Liam, but I've got no time for grasses. Do you know what a nemesis?
Now, you could do this afterwards, but you don't want to go through sifting through pig shit now, do you?
A righteous manifestation. Oh, I can't remember what it is. I love that line. Manifests itself in an horrible cunt. Me. Sorry about the language. He's the narrator.
He's the narrator in Lockstock, yeah.
Isn't he? He's so good in this film.
Also, he's in an American Werewolf in London.
Is he really?
Yeah, I think he plays barman in that.
Right.
He's also in a film called Cockneys and Zombies. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen him do more, much more.
I think the problem is that he's because it's so iconic now. You can't move past it.
Those big thick glasses.
Yeah. Take the glasses off and it's already a different character, isn't it? Yeah. We got Jason Fleming playing Darren, who's one of the
let's say travellers, that sounds less offensive.
Yes, yeah. He's I can't think of his character's name in Lockstock.
The ginger one.
Yeah, the one who everyone says about his weight, even though he's stick thin.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Jesus, Tom, what have you been eating?
Yeah. And goes on to play Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in Extraordinary Gentleman.
In the film that ended Sean Connery's career, that's correct.
I'll never work again. Shower of shite.
We've also got, I apologise on the pronunciation of this name, Rade Sabegia, I believe that's how you say it, is Boris the Blade.
Oh, he's great, yeah.
He's one of those actors that I don't think a lot of people know his name.
He's bloke from stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but he's in Mission Impossible 2. Yeah, uh-huh. He's just done a series called Dark Horses with Gary Oldman. He's great in that. He's just one of those actors that's in a lot of stuff, and he's great in everything. We've got Vinnie Jones playing Bullet Tooth Tony.
Playing the only character Vinnie Jones can play.
He's basically playing the same character as he plays in Lockstock, even to the point where he wears the same jacket. Yeah. Even though they're not the same character. But we've got Dennis Farina playing Cousin Avi.
Avi.
And then we've got Benicio del Toro playing Frankie Four Fingers.
Yeah.
And as I say, not one of those castings is a bad casting. No, every single person is almost perfect, if not perfect, in their role.
Yeah. Do you think it helps that it is essentially a bunch of sketches in a sitcom manner, that like the casting? It's because it's not a deep exploration into a character. It's very. Try not to use the word superficial because it sounds like I'm diminishing the movie, because I'm really not trying to. I think the movie's amazing, but it's very, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And you get to, as an actor, I assume you get to have a lot of fun with that. You get to swing for the fences. Like, no one is going to notice someone overacting in this film.
I don't think the phrase, I don't think the character would do that, was going to be used in the making of this film, is it?
Yeah.
You know, it's not the film, as I said earlier, that you're going to be spending lots and lots of time going, what's my character's motivation?
Everyone in this movie is chewing scenery. Or like Benicio del Toro, amazing actor, chewing scenery. Brad Pitt, chewing scenery.
Where's the stance?
Where are the stance? Amazing. Booby, I probably know lots you done.
You know, that scene where he's getting tailored and every time it goes back to him, he's got a different suit on. It's absolutely genius.
Superb,
absolutely genius. Yeah, I mean, the casting, I've got some some would-be castings.
You
It's
got
that
some
time
alternates
again.
here, yeah.
And I'll tell you what.
Did we even do the plot of the movie yet?
Oh, no, we haven't done that. That's a good point. Hey.
It's about
Here we go.
About 40 odd minutes in.
Here we go, right. Okay, here we go.
Mate, do you think like maybe we should move the plot of the movie to the beginning of the show?
Probably should.
I think every week when we get about halfway through the episode, it's like, so this is the plot.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
I should
like,
probably do that bit.
And I'm pretty sure that should be at the beginning. We'll work it out.
Okay, so Turkish and his close friend and accomplice Tommy get pulled into the world of match fixing by the notorious Bricktop. Things get complicated when the boxer they had lined up gets badly beaten by Mickey, who comes into the equation after Turkish, an unlicensed boxing promoter, wants to buy a caravan off of some travellers. Then they try and convince Mickey not only to fight for them, but to lose to them too. Or lose for them too, sorry. Whilst all this is going on, a huge diamond heist takes place and a fistful of motley characters enter the story, including Cousin Avi, Boris the Blade, Frankie Four Fingers and Bullet Tooth Tony. Things go from bad to worse as it all becomes about the money, the guns and the damn dog.
What do you mean you lost him? He's not a set of car keys. Hang on. Come again. In the whispered words of the Virgin Mary. Come again.
There's a brilliant bit with Bricktop, and it's the scene where Errol and is it John?
I don't know.
Errol and John are sitting in, and Bricktop like creeps up on Jason Statham, and he backs into it, and just that tiny. It literally creased me up every single time.
No thanks, Turkish. I'm sweet enough. Yeah.
So where were we?
We were about to go to casting other castings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, how about some of these names then for you?
Bob Hoskins.
Not on this.
Actually, he would have still been alive at this point as well.
Yeah.
Bob Hoskins could have been in this movie.
He could have been Bricktop easy. It would have been a bit more menacing as opposed to comedic, I think.
Does he do his Mario voice?
One day you're going to ask that question and there's actually going to be an answer. Maybe we should do Mario next.
We should do Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. So the role of Bricktop...
Mm-hmm.
I literally cannot believe this. I think this is absolute flannel. I don't think this is true in the slightest. Because this is so stupid. Right? So, both of these actually are really stupid. So I'll start with the less ludicrous one first. Yeah. So the role of Bricktop was originally offered to Sean Connery. Apparently he liked the script and was curious after seeing Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. So producer Matthew Vaughn hastily arranged a screening for... Oh, he was interested to see Lock, Stock, as opposed to seeing it.
Yeah.
So Matthew Vaughn arranged a screening for him. Connery duly turned up and watched the film before emerging with his judgment. This is a good film.
I honestly... What a pile of shite.
This is a good film, followed by... You're not going to be able to afford me. So if that's true, that's quite funny. Okay, and this one is so.
Hang on. Sorry. I'm just trying to picture Sean Connery's Bricktop now. Like,
put a lead on that Turkish before she got to bed.
I mean,
it works, but in a different way.
It's not funny.
Doesn't it?
It's not funny though, is it? Is it funny with Sean Connery?
I find that funny.
No, I mean it's funny to think about it, but I mean in the context of the film.
No, because it's Sean Connery.
It would work.
I think that's the problem. It's Sean Connery.
You would be looking at Sean Connery, wouldn't you? Yeah.
I think the genius is because Alan Ford isn't that well known. By that point, you just accept it for what it is, rather than going, you know. So Bradley Walsh apparently told the Telegraph that he was originally cast as Bricktop.
And he winding him up?
I think he might be. And came up with the line, "I'll cut your fucking Jacobs off." Guy Ritchie called him up and fired him before filming even began after learning that Walsh used to host the Wheel of Fortune and decided the casting would hurt the film's credibility. Yeah, the fact that he works on Wheel of Fortune is the problem there.
I'm pretty sure that's Bradley Walsh taking a mick. Yeah,
I like the idea
genius.
of it though.
That's genius. That I want that to not be true because I just want Bradley Walsh to be that funny. Do you know what I mean? That's brilliant. I was going to say, I imagine Guy Ritchie got who he wanted for the most part.
Yeah, as we said,
You know what I mean?
Brad Pitt came to him and was like, "Have you got anything for me?"
Do you think at any point, talking of Mockneys, Danny Dyer was annoyed that he was in none of Guy Ritchie's movies? Because he's like...
But he's not a Cockney though. He's Essex.
Yeah, but that's what I was talking about, Mockneys.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, you've got to imagine, as Danny Dyer,
Well,
you got to think I should be in one of them movies.
he was in Mean Machine, which was produced by Guy Ritchie.
Is he a Mean Machine?
Yeah, he plays the really sort of simple, who's in love with Vinnie Jones's character.
Is that right?
Well, they all start like they all show everybody how to tackle, and they use Danny Dyer as the. Everyone just starts like 2 foot challenging him, and he's just like, "Is that all right?"
When's Human Traffic? Human Traffic's the film that made
That's 2000,
Danny Dyer.
yeah.
That's 2000.
Yeah. So around the same sort of time. I
That's
think.
as late as... Wow, I thought it was way before that.
Which is really weird because that has a very similar, like, poster and DVD cover. Like,
Really
it's
similar,
almost the point where you go, "Who copied who?"
Yeah,
because it's so similar.
Because
if
the
you
thing is,
didn't know what you were looking at, you'd think it perhaps, oh, that's that film with Brad Pitt. Oh no, it's not. You know?
very, because like the Snatch cover doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's got a hazardous sign on it for some reason. It says Snatch. I don't really get the reference. You know what I mean? But you got to think, like, British cinema literally had its renaissance with Trainspotting. That's where it really started. Like, it's never stopped, but that's when the renaissance started. Then you get like always had the Richard Curtis type movies. Always done those sort of 4 Weddings kind of movies, which is mid-90s. And then Lock, Stock is, I want to say 97. 98. So there you go. I would have put Human Traffic at about 97, 98. Human Traffic is essentially Trainspotting, but with ecstasy instead of heroin. That's how I see it. That's how I view that film. You know what I mean? It's like a more cuddly version of Trainspotting. And
set in Manchester rather than in Glasgow.
Scotland. Yeah. It's like a more cuddly version, isn't it? Yeah. Wow.
Oh, brother!
I know so many people used to quote that film all the time.
I feel like I've just sent you right back to a place you didn't want to go.
Oh, yeah. Warehouse with a bunch of idiots. Yeah, that's weird. I would have thought it was before. That's crazy because that's Danny Dyer's big break, isn't it? Is Human Traffic?
Isn't
it?
Trainspotting.
Danny Dyer.
Oh, sorry. Too many Dannys going on right now. Yeah. Danny
That's
Dyer.
his big break.
Yeah, he was in a couple of Virgin Cola adverts.
Right.
But I don't know if you can call that a big break.
I slight tangent. I really miss Virgin Cola. Virgin Cola was the best cola.
I never managed to actually have any.
It was lovely.
A friend of mine was like, "Oh, you've got to try Virgin Cola. It's great.
Yeah.
You've got to try Virgin Cola."
The best.
I wasn't even allowed normal cola.
You're not.
And I got some
bootleg. Got some moody cola. You've been watching Snatch too much, right? Got some moody cola off a geezer. What? With some cola, mate. What you got? You got any Virgin? Nah, I got some Happy Shopper. Bit of Happy Shopper. Bit of Roller Cola. No, Virgin Coke's the best, man. Right up there, though. Genuinely right up there was Krusty the Clown's Yellow Cola, which I only ever found in a vending machine at work once. It was amazing.
I mean, it does sound like something you just made up.
That's 100%. You had Bart Simpson Clear Cola and Krusty the Clown Yellow Cola. Both amazing. Probably the same flavour.
Fair enough. We should probably stop talking about cola and start talking about Snatch.
Did you know that the bottle for Virgin Cola was based on Marilyn Monroe? The shape of the bottle.
Was it?
I know lots of facts about cola.
Maybe that's what we give to our patron.
The Coke episode. I'm so glad you did press me on that.
We're going to get a load of people coming along thinking it's a very different episode if we call it the Coke episode.
When they start talking about human traffic, now they're talking about Coke. I'm glad you didn't press me on that though, because I actually don't have any more facts about Coca-Cola. That was it.
I've let you slip, haven't I?
Yeah. I thought you're gonna go give me one more. Actually, I could probably give you one more fact on Coca-Cola. Did you know?
If you must.
Did you know? Did you know? McDonald's, the reason Coca-Cola at McDonald's tastes better than any other Coke is because they put more syrup in it than anyone else.
No.
And they put it in aluminium tins. I know
it's the tins.
No, it's not.
It's the tins.
The tin apparently does change the flavour, but they make it, apparently this is true, they make it with a little extra syrup, so when the ice melts, it doesn't dilute the flavour, it becomes the right consistency. Because you drink it before the ice is melted, it tastes like, it's like crack in it, it's so good. But yeah, they have metal tins in McDonald's instead of plastic.
You just made me really want to get a McDonald's.
It's the best Coke. I love a draft Coke. I'm not going to stop talking about Coke. You're going to have to physically make me start talking about Coke or Cola. Other beverages are available.
Just to let everyone know, this is not a euphemism. We do mean Coca-Cola, okay?
I'm not going to stop talking about cola.
I've just got a drug peddler sitting opposite me today. Right, shall we get back onto the film Snatch?
Yeah, I'm just going to have a swig of this cola. Hang on.
That's actually Pepsi Max if you want to be really...
That's why I said cola. It's Pepsi Max Cola. You ever notice though?
I thought we'd managed to.
Have you ever noticed though? Have you ever noticed that you like the Coke you like, the cola you like? So if you're really into,
what are you talking about? You like the cola you like?
Right? I'm dead serious, right? If you like, say, Coke Zero, right? You don't like normal Coke. If you like Coke, you don't like Pepsi Max. If you like Pepsi Max, you don't like normal Pepsi. You only like the version of cola you like. You can't switch between them because they taste repugnant. It is true.
I like Pepsi Max. I like normal Coke. I like Pepsi.
No, you don't.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah, you're lying. No, you don't. No, you cannot switch between brands of cola. Sorry, between brands of cola. You can't. Like occasionally, I can go to a full fat Coke. I drink Pepsi Max a lot. Sometimes I can go to a full fat Coke.
Just for anybody who can't see us, because this is a auditory medium, I keep looking at my notes and nowhere on there does it say anything about Coca-Cola, Virgin Cola, or any other type of branded cola drink.
You brought up Virgin Coke, man. You know what I mean?
No, I didn't.
You did. You're talking about Danny Dyer in a Virgin Coke advert. That's how they started. It's your fault. Well, the reason
didn't I? It's all my fault.
And the reason, like, there's odd pauses before I carry on is I wait until Ryan goes to look at his notes.
And then start
talking about do you remember Tab Clear? Do you remember Tab Clear? It was phenomenal when it came. Clear Coca-Cola.
Is it your mission to totally derail this episode? Because if it is, then bravo. You've done it in a way that I couldn't foresee happening. But for the sake of...
I wondered how we were going to make this episode last 2 hours, and now I know.
Right. So, just to get on the topic of the film Snatch again, and to allow our lungs and heads to regain our usualness. I've just...
Did you know
God.
when the Kinks did their song Lola on Radio 1, they made them change the name of Cherry Cola to something else because it was product placement.
I mean, there's part of me that is just going, he can't have that many more facts. So if I just let him go, eventually it will stop.
I think the line is Coca-Cola and he changes it to Cherry Cola because of product placement. Yeah.
But the problem with that is that I don't know when that will be, and so I'm just going to have to ignore his comments about cola. in order to save some semblance of this episode from...
Do you think this will be the most half listened to episode we've released?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Maybe we just need to do a whole podcast on cola, or...
Do you think how many episodes of a podcast about cola do you think we could do?
I'll be honest, I think we're struggling with one.
What have we brought in other types of fizzy beverage?
Oh, God. Literally 75% of this episode is not going to be usable.
I refuse to edit any of it.
I think that's laziness more than anything.
Is this the sound of the podcast imploding? I can get on with it, right? For fuck's sake. I'm done.
I've got one word in my head, and luckily, the next thing I've got to say uses that word, so I can use it without it just seeming harsh. So, when Guy Ritchie told Brad Pitt that he'd be playing a boxer, Pitt became concerned because he had just finished shooting Fight Club and did not want to appear as though he's playing the same type of character. He also had problems when he was filming Snatch. He became concerned about the over-excessive use of the word cunt because in America it's obviously a lot more of a loaded term, whereas in England it's used rather affectionately, apart from the time I've just said it, and I'm not saying any more than that. So he became quite concerned, and then eventually he was convinced into it being all okay and everything.
In the future, I don't think it will be.
Really worried about what you're going to say now.
Cunty cola. I was going to do a long preamble up to it, but I can't be bothered.
Oh my God.
Yes, it is a much harsher word in America than it is over here.
Yeah.
It's used as a term of endearment in this country.
Yeah, I use it all the time.
Yeah, it's a solid word.
On this,
in this country, actually, it's a weird thing, in it, where you'll call your friends, all right, you can't, how you doing? And it's like you're called people you hate, mate. The
more vile language that is used, it usually means the more affectionate they are towards that person.
100%.
Usually in this country, when you're being proper angry, I think it was Russell Kane, the comedian, who said
he's quite funny. Isn't he?
He said really that I might even be Lee Mack. He said that
also a really funny comedian. Yeah.
When Cockneys, they don't get louder when they're starting. They go quiet.
Yeah, a little bit quiet.
They start getting more precise.
Yeah.
How you doing, son? You all right?
How you doing,
Lee? Yeah. You doing all right, Lee? You doing fine, are you, Lee? I'm being quite threatening right now.
Yeah. You ever seen those people that are so cockney it hurts? Oh, I'm so cockney it hurts. That's Lee Mack, isn't it? Yeah.
So fucking cockney. It's fucking painful.
He's fucking prancing about the stage. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, Lee Mack's brilliant, man.
He's great, but he's not in this film. So,
Rob Brydon was in
he was in Lock, Stock as a traffic warden, wasn't he? Yeah. Oh, what a cameo. What a cameo.
Red Dragon Coffee Roasters. Our roasted coffee beans are so good, you'll think you've been strapped to a wheelchair, set alight, and pushed down Main Street. Red Dragon Coffee Roasters. Coffee with a bite.
Hello, I'm Barry Wood.
Michael Caine's Tangerine Dream Whipped Cream for all your pudding needs. Simply add milk of your choice and wait 6 to 12 days. Michael Caine's Tangerine Dream Whipped Cream from the Michael Caine Tangerine Emporium.
So the US distributors considered changing the title of Snatch to Snatched with a apostrophe D on the end. Most likely because the word snatch means vagina in slang. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the point, I think. Yeah. But apparently that's what US distributors wanted to do, missing the point entirely. And I think we've covered all the things he said. I mean, the thing about the Brazilian man telling him about if you want to make Bricktop a bit more hated, have him abuse dogs. Interesting. You said it's quite a violent film. Almost all of the deaths happen off screen.
I noticed it yesterday when I was watching it.
That was like we timed that. Off screen.
Yeah. No, I noticed it yesterday. It was interesting because I was toying whether or not to watch it with my newborn baby in the room, and I was like, I don't think I really want to be watching this movie in front of a 4-month-old kid. It seems wrong. It's ultra violent, so I didn't. I chose not to in case anyone wants to ring child protection services. I didn't watch it, but I was very aware of the violence that was or wasn't necessarily in it. Like you say, all the deaths are off screen. It's all either hinted at or you'll see a blood splatter on a wall. You're not up with common offence, are you, Tommy? Mad Johnny went mad.
and John the Gun shot himself.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just like as soon as you start saying a line in this, you immediately jump into doing the bit, and that's the beauty of this. Like,
well, interestingly, when he wrote it, he originally wrote it gritty. It was wasn't supposed to be funny. It was going to be his gritty masterpiece sort of thing. And then he just couldn't help himself.
Gritty masterpiece. It sounds like such an arrogant thing to say. It's going to be my gritty masterpiece.
I mean, I may have added the masterpiece.
I know. Let's get Mike Reed. That'll make it gritty.
And Bob Hoskins. He could do his Mario voice.
Virgin Cola.
We'll get Bob Hoskins drinking Virgin Cola. We'll make it proper gritty. Yeah, it was supposed to be more gritty, and then he just couldn't help himself. He
said that a lot of the scenes with Sol, Vincent, and Tyrone were inspired by watching like late night CCTV gone wrong like programs
right?
Of like bank robberies gone wrong and things like that.
Right.
And when you know that it's that
right in front of you, isn't it?
Whole scene. Yeah. That woman who plays
she's amazing.
All bets are off.
I ain't buying it. That's handy because I ain't selling it.
Well, if all bets are off, well, then there can't be any money then, can there? Yeah. It's just brilliant.
It's amazing, man.
But even I would say Sol, Vinny, and Tyrone are my favourite characters in the film, which is everybody's a favourite character really because they're all so good.
Yeah.
The line where it's like, do you see about getting a gun, Vinny? And he goes, yeah. It's like, what's that?
It's a shotgun.
It's a shotgun, Sol. It's a fucking anti-aircraft missile, Vincent. The use of calling him Vincent just to highlight.
It's perfect. Yeah. Tyrone's up there for the man who steals the movie for me.
Cool.
As is Bricktop and Mike Reed. I love Mike. It's not free world, isn't it? Well, it's not a free shop, is it? So fuck off. It's like listening to my dad. It's insane.
I mean, even the tiny characters like the twins. Yeah, Dad. Yeah. You told us. You can always get Bulletooth Tony in it. Yeah. I think Boris the Blade. I think is great as well.
Boris, he's really good. Yeah.
It's heavy.
Wait, is sign of reliability.
Plus,
you can always hit it with it. Yeah.
There's a brilliant deleted scene actually where Boris comes in to the bookies, and obviously he's got Benicio del Toro with the tea cozy on his head, and he just comes in and then he pops out, and then the character Frankie Fourfingers wakes up and he says, "Can you take this hat off of me?" And Tyrone just goes, "It's not a hat, it's a tea cozy." And I'm like, why did you cut that? That's a fantastic.
Great.
It's just another great line.
Yeah.
I mean, Bricktop, we've said it numerous times. The best thing about Bricktop is It's an old YouTube video where somebody has stitched all of Bricktop's quotes over Star Wars.
Yeah, Darth Vader, innit?
And they've called it Snatch Wars.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely brilliant.
Superb, innit?
It's like there's the bit in Star Wars where he says about one of the minions or whatever says something to him. I wasn't asking, I was telling. And he just goes, "You fucking prat."
Yeah, that is definitely worth checking out. It is hilarious, man.
Yeah. So what about favourite scene? If you can narrow it down.
There's so many, isn't there? Anything with Mike Reading, anything with Bricktop in. It's got to be the Nemesis scene, isn't it? It's got to be.
The brilliance of that scene is the comic timing of Vinny and Sol just like looking around, like, because he still hasn't introduced who he is.
But who the fuck are you? Yeah. Apart from a man who knows a lot about pigs.
Even Goldie in that scene is goes, "Do you know who I am?"
I do.
I do.
Yeah.
You know, it's just absolutely brilliant.
The dialogue. I mean, the film is full of amazing dialogue. Literally carries the film on its dialogue.
Hence the phrase, as greedy as a pig. So be very wary of anyone who has a pig farm.
Yeah. It'll go through bone like
butter.
It's got to be that scene, I think. I think that's my favourite scene. It's so good.
I think I would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
I think more from a filmmaking aspect, I think the scene towards the end of the film where Mickey gets knocked out and it goes into that, they use the high speed cameras and it goes into that slow motion and you just see his body like arch up and then he falls into the water, and we all know how it's done, but it looks so good. It's a
pleasing shot.
It's just so nice to look at.
All of the boxing scenes is really pleasing. It's really the speeded up bits, the slowed down stuff, so pleasing to watch, aren't they? You know what I mean? Every time Mickey gets knocked down, gets back up and sparks someone out, and this where it speeds up, and it's really nice to look at. The whole film is full of just really nice shots. Even the opening bit, camera's spinning on the diamond, and then it comes back out, and then you watch as he introduces all the characters, and you watch all of the sort of money will change hands into the gold until it breaks into each scene. Excuse me. It's just really, it's like watching a music video or something, right? But it's just really, it's really pleasing to watch. You know? Yeah,
I like. The editing on this is
superb.
Is as much as what makes it the film as anything else. The scene where we see Avi come to England and that very short shot.
Bish bash bosh.
Avi, sit down and shut up, you big bald fuck. It's absolutely. And then the reverse of when he ends up shooting Bullet Tooth Tony, and there's a pause, and then it does the reverse. Anything to declare? Yeah, don't go to England. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's very fast paced editing. It works really well. His choice of camera angles are pretty good. There's some Dutch lilts in here. I think when you first get to the pawn shop, it's on a Dutch lilt outside. It's such a nice shot to look at. It's I don't really know why it's there. The Dutch lilts usually indicate something going awry, but you just put it in because it looks nice. It's like visual candy,
And again, it's not one of those films where it's necessarily trying to tell you anything with the way it's shot. Traditionally the reason that those shots are used are to tell the audience something is awry, something's not quite right.
Yeah, something's just changed.
But it's not used in that. And usually when you just put stuff in for the sake of it, for it looking nice,
it usually stands out.
Out and it feels very superficial. But nothing does here. It feels very... I mean, it's a real testament to his skill to be able to... And I've seen the storyboards of that Avi scene, both when he's coming and going from England. It looks exactly like it's shot. An element of that is cinematographer's going to have a hand in that, and and all of those elements. But to have
they knew going in that's what they were going to do. There's a bit in the documentary where it's the scene after Matthew Vaughn and Guy Ritchie are stood there going, Rich Batch, and they're mimicking the plane. Yeah, bam, Abby!
Yeah.
Like that. And they're doing it at each other.
And they both of them go, Abby! At the same time. Yeah. It shows how good the characters are when you haven't really spent that much time speaking about perhaps the biggest star in there, in Brad Pitt. You know, what does that say about the cast of characters when he's not forgettable and he's not throwaway in any sense of the word, but it's not like, obviously he did put bums in seats. Yeah. That's a big part of it. But it's not like it's not a vanity project for him. It's not just, we're doing this because it's got Brad Pitt in. Well, I want to make that film, so I've got to have Brad Pitt in it. It doesn't come across that way.
Well, they found a perfect use for him, didn't they?
That's right. And again,
it's such an ensemble piece that he just blends right in. He fits in.
He's great in it, and he's got some crackers of lines as well. Yeah, you like dags? Like, dags? Dags? You like dags? Oh, dogs.
Yeah, I like dags.
Yeah, like caravan for him. No. Then the line when they're betting on whether or not they're going to buy a new caravan for him, and he's like,
the boys get a pair of those shoes.
Turkish goes, I reckon the rabbit gets proper fucked. He says, what? Proper fucked?
No, it's just fucked. Because it's literally, Tommy does it. Tommy says it first, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
I reckon he gets fucked. And Turkish goes, what? Proper fucked? Like really sarcastically. And then he repeats it to Mickey, and Mickey repeats the piss take back to him, and Tommy's grinning. It's a lovely little bit.
Another good bit of like filming in that is when they're talking about that deal, and Turkish goes, look, we came to you for a caravan. We've already going to get you one. You didn't do your job, and now you're going to do us another one, or whatever the line is, for some tart in a caravan.
Get the old tart caravan.
And it just zooms in on all of them, and they're
not calling your mum a tart.
It's a shock. Don't worry about it. I think it's just so. I think it is just so well written. I think as soon as the script isn't there, this whole thing falls apart because there isn't anything else to it really. Yeah. It's a script that's it's a series of comedy moments stitched together. Ever since you said it's Tarantino, it's so much Tarantino that it's hard to not see it now. And I don't know why I didn't quite make the connection anyway. It's weird because it's so many things stuck together. It's such a postmodern film. It's so many, like I say, it's Danny Boyle, it's Tarantino, it's every gangster movie that came before it, but it's League of Gentlemen as well. It's all this all these references just mashed together. It's the TV show Minder. It's all of it just mashed together and sort of cut in a big sausage mincer, and out comes the other end is this amazing film, you know. But like, even if you watched Trainspotting, when he introduced the characters in Trainspotting, it pauses when Begbie throws the pint over it. It stops. This is Begbie. This is Sick Boy. And he literally lifts that. He changes it slightly because he sort of gives them a little almost cartoon font, as he introduced them. But it's all those bits just sort of stuck together. And there's a lot of Tarantino. It is that sort of Looney Tune violence, kind of cartoonish. But I think he was trying to do that. I think he refers to it as very cartoonish. Very graphic novel-esque, isn't it? Yeah. It's very kick-ass, which Matthew Vaughn would go on to. At a time where not a lot of people were doing that kind of stuff. There were a few, obviously, but I think he kind of set that trend of being everybody's doing that same, very quick, very short. So many bad movies after this, though, wasn't there? To be fair, even himself. Like he does Rock and Roller, which is the more serious version. It's the more serious version, and because of that, it's not as good. For it, everyone wanted the bits that Lock, Stock and Snatch Barrels. You know what I mean? Lock, Stock and Snatch Barrels. Wow, that's a great title. We just keep giving all of these filmmakers just so much material, don't we? The best parts about Rock and Roller. Lock, Stock and a Virgin Coke. I thought we'd got past that. The best parts about Rock and Roller are the funny kind of interplay. Sorry, say Coca-Cola. Oh, Rock and Roller, sorry. Trying to keep this on track. The more you try, the more I want to derail it, though. In that film, the interplay between Gerard Butler and Tom Hardy, where Tom Hardy convinces him that he's in love with him. And that kind of humour coming out of there, those are the best parts of the film.
Yeah.
I think Rock and Roller has a great cast. For the most part, I think everybody's wasted in it. Like Idris Elba's in it, and you look at it and you go, oh yeah, Idris Elba is in that, because you totally forget about Mark Strong's in it, and you go, oh yeah, Mark Strong's in it. And it's, I mean, I think that's when you can see, you know, the collaboration from like Matthew Vaughn. Obviously then goes on to do
there's a lot, but he does Kick-Ass, which is
he does Kick-Ass. He goes on to do Kingsman, and he obviously uses Mark Strong in that as well.
Have you seen Matthew Vaughn talking about his experience making X-Men movies? Oh, it's brilliant. So I saw a video.
Yes, he made First Class, didn't he?
He was at Comic-Con, and he was talking about X3. He was supposed to do X3, and he was signed on to do it.
And it went to Brett Ratner,
and
didn't it?
he was in an exec's office, and there was a X-Men X3 script on his desk, and he said he looked at it, and it was like much thicker than the one he'd been given. And he said, what's that? Oh, you don't have to worry about that. He said, well, I'm the director. I do have to. What is that? He said, well, that's the Halle Berry script. He said, what do you mean a Halle Berry script? He said, well, she hasn't signed on yet, so that's the script we're showing her. As soon as she signed on, that's going in the bin. And he said he took it off the geezer's desk and looked at it, and it had an opening scene, storms in Africa, making it rain so people don't starve. He's like, well, that's a good scene. And he's like, but you're not going to film. He's like, that's it, go in the bin as soon as she signed up. He said, so you're going to treat an Oscar-winning actress like this? You're going to lie to her, essentially, just to get her to sign up to film? He said he quit there and then, so I'm done. He then went back and directed First Class, right?
Yeah, the first one with McAvoy and Fassbender.
Yeah. He then wrote...
That sounds like a comedy duo there, doesn't it? Yeah. We're a new episode of McAvoy and Fassbender.
He then wrote... I want to say Days of Future. He wrote one after that.
Days of Future Past.
Days of Future. And they lied to him because they said he could direct it. And then after he gave them the script, he said, Bryan Singer's going to direct it. And he said, that's when he walked away from Hollywood. I'm done. Just went and did Kingsman. But fascinating, because Hollywood's shady, right?
Yeah,
but they literally wrote a fake
it?
Script to get her to sign on.
That seems like such a waste of time more than anything, because you would have paid somebody to write that script.
I expect it was mostly the same. It's just, you got people on staff sitting there. You new boy, write something that Halle Berry will like in here. Put it right at the beginning, so it's the first thing she sees as well. It's crazy, isn't it? He was like, Hollywood's just so sleazy. He tells the story better than I do, obviously, but yeah, it was fascinating. He was like, so not only did they screwed over Halle Berry, they screwed him over by telling him he was going to direct this film, and they said, actually, contractually, Bryan Singer gets first refusal on it. And he was like, I just wrote this for you. And he walked away.
I guarantee Matthew Vaughn directing Days of Future Past would have made it a much better film.
Yeah.
By that point, Bryan Singer, I think, had lost all credibility.
Yeah,
and he was being a bit weird as well, apparently.
Yeah, I like the first X-Men film.
First one's good. I like 2.
Did he do? He did 2.
He did 2,
and then he went off to do Superman, which is a bad film.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
Apart from the geezer he got to play
Brandon
Superman,
Roth,
he does a really good job.
He got screwed over, didn't he? He's in the film that
didn't land.
Yeah, and it's his fault. It's not his fault, but in the eyes of Hollywood,
something
it's his
about
fault.
that role, though, isn't it? Because Cavill ended up getting.
He's been screwed over.
He's got screwed over because then he quit Witcher to go make the next Superman film, and then they said, "We don't want you." I think they gave him $250,000, which is small thing, but he quit a job to go do it, and
he gave up The Witcher.
Gave up The Witcher, yeah. Which sounds like he gave it up The Witcher. And then he took it up The Witcher.
That sounds like Courtney Rhyming slang, doesn't it? He's only going to give it up The Witcher, isn't he?
But it's a shite business.
Yeah, it's a shit business.
It's a shit business.
Yeah,
it's a League of Gentlemen.
It's just one. I think it's one of those things that I think.
On a total tangent, I've got to say that the creme brulee sketches in League of Gentlemen are some of my favourite. It's a shit business. That and Jeff Tips, I love.
Jeff Tips
he's superb, isn't he?
I love to death Jeff Tips.
He's so good.
I
want the mums.
Me and a friend of mine would quote League of Gentlemen daily in school.
Yeah.
And literally, I if this guy is listening now, which he should be, he's a friend of mine. So Tom Arfield, if you're listening to this, I can make you laugh right now. Yeah, 3 bluebirds. And he'd be laughing because we used to piss ourselves laughing at that, just to amuse ourselves in boring lessons. And we would quote it, and we'd do, "Here, mate, tell that one about the mau mau."
Yeah, the mau mau. Yeah.
No, bananas. No, it's not. It's the next one. It's so big.
It's so good. George of Asda.
Get it right, Brian. Just brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I do love those creme brulees.
Yeah,
it's a shit business.
There's so much like depression in those sketches. Yeah. It's like you see a man crumbling and just trying to accept he's not
over.
He's no longer going to be doing Eurovision Song Contest.
But in the revival, he's trying to put the band back together. Oh no, you tree.
Yeah, no, I think I was about to say Tim Robbins, but I don't think that's his name. It's an old northern comedian who's in Phoenix Nights.
I know you're Robbins, right. Yeah. Tim Robbins is the American actor.
Yeah, the well-known American actor. But I think it's Tom Robbins. Could be wrong on that.
He was also up for the role of Bricktop in this.
Along with Bob Hoskins and his Mario voice in a bottle of cola. I think obviously we've gone on a bit of a tangent speaking about League of Gentlemen, but I think there are, as you said, those links to that kind of style of storytelling. Yeah,
because League of Gentlemen is a through story with basically, it's a sitcom with sketches. It's a sketch show with a. It's
an intelligent sketch show.
Yeah, it's a sketch show with a story that's going. You know, and it gets more so as the series go on, but the links are there because it's around the same time. When's the first series of League of Gentlemen is late 90s, isn't it?
97, I want to say.
Yeah. So I think the movie's around 2000, 2001-ish, isn't it? It's somewhere around there as well.
So a couple of things I just wanted to pose to you.
Mm-hmm.
So do we think that Guy Ritchie will ever be able to really escape that genre?
It's tricky because
I don't think he helps himself.
He kind of invented it, if you know what I mean. A Guy Ritchie film is a Guy Ritchie film. Like we said, he takes from all these places. And it was often imitated for a few years to the point of the detriment. To the point I assume he stopped wanting to make movies like that because he went through a period where his movies weren't very Guy Ritchie-esque, I feel. But his best movies since Snatch would be your Sherlock Holmes, which has got some very Guy Ritchie moments in it, you know.
Yeah.
Like I say, that King Arthur one is a hard film. I've never
seen it, but I've seen the trailer, and they literally made it King Arthur, but with the style of Snatch editing.
That's the bit I saw.
And
I saw it. We were talking about this on a previous episode, weren't we? Yeah, I saw it one year. I was wrapping Christmas presents, and I must have watched about half hour of it, and I couldn't watch it. It was too jarring. The two styles didn't mix this sort of ye oldie thing, but it was all talking like Snatch.
It doesn't. You know? It literally doesn't make sense at all. And then
it's such a confused film.
Then I found out that David Beckham was cast in it. And
it's King Arthur. I think
I'm a United fan. I love David Beckham as a footballer. I don't want to see him I don't want to see him acting.
Guy Ritchie's
at
like,
all.
I did it with Vinnie Jones. Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just he's just trying to replicate Vinnie Jones. Interestingly, Vinnie Jones in anything other than Guy Ritchie films.
He's also in X3 as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Vinnie Jones.
I'm the juggernaut, bitch.
The juggernaut, bitch. Oh, it's so bad.
It's just
so bad.
I mean, the writing alone is bad, but the delivery. I mean, I don't know what you can do with that line.
No,
but Vinnie Jones is not the actor to be able to pull something out of that line. Anything that isn't Guy Ritchie and Vinnie Jones, it just falls right off.
Yeah.
You know, I can't name a decent film he's been in since Mean Machine. And that was produced by
I think we spoke about this before. He plays a mute in Gone in 60 Seconds, doesn't he?
That was 2000, so that was just after Snatch. And to be fair, there's a reason he was mute, probably. Because the director probably didn't know what to do with him. I think they probably cast him in that because that'll get some of the English fans looking at him, potentially.
I feel like I saw Vinnie Jones in a film with Jason Mewes a few years ago.
Jason Mewes?
Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. Madness in the Method. I'm sure Vinnie Jones is in that, and it's really jarring.
He's also in The Midnight Meat Train with Bradley Cooper.
Really?
He plays a guy who goes on a midnight train in London and kills
eats
people.
Some meat. Eats a pepperoni.
He just killed. It's such a bad horror movie.
Really? Yeah.
And then he's been in the gangster films, straight to DVD release type things.
Yeah. Well, there was a slew, wasn't there? These films. Some of them had some of the original cast from Lock, Stock in, of just endless Cockney gangster films that were sort of supposed to be funny. And I mean, that's a testament to the strength of those first two Guy Ritchie films. But I don't think he'll ever be able to truly escape it.
I think it's going to be very, very difficult because, as we say, like if you're going to do, say, like King Arthur, you don't need to add. Like, I know that's your signature style, but you don't need to add that. You kind of got away with it with Sherlock Holmes.
It's the fight scenes when he's in the pit. Those fights are so Snatch-like, but it really works.
It works
really
because of that kind of the intelligence of how Sherlock Holmes explains what he's going to do before he does it.
It makes sense in the context, doesn't it? That's right,
I mean, The Gentleman is...
I haven't watched it. It's supposed to be very good.
It's all right. It's not...
So they got Colin
Charlie
Farrell.
Hunnam, Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
There's a great line in there, which I can't really repeat because it will definitely get me cancelled. But yeah, Hugh Grant is great in that as well.
Hugh Grant, he plays a journalist, is it?
Yeah. There's another film.
I've seen lots of clips of it. I haven't seen the film.
I can't really remember that much about it. I mean, it's very similar style in the sense of you've got these overarching and these overlapping narratives that all kind of feed into each other. So it's very similar in that respect.
Yeah.
He also done a film called Wrath of Man, which is a 2021, I think it is, with Jason Statham, who plays the head of a mafia family in America, and what
accent is Jason Statham doing?
Jason Statham's accent.
Because is it the transporter where I cannot work out what that accent is supposed to be
until you watch number 2, and he's clearly dropped it.
And he's just got
the whole of the
Jason
first
Statham.
one, it's like I don't.
I think it's supposed to be American.
It's supposed to be American, but it sounds sometimes French,
so weird,
which is where it's set.
Yeah.
It sounds sometimes Australian, and it sounds sometimes Jason Statham.
Yeah, because it's so weird. I like the Crank movies that he did.
Those are mental.
So good.
It's so like
the soundtrack
over the
by
top
by Mike Patton. It's so good. You know? But especially that first Crank movie, it's just crazy. Yeah, it's relentless and it just doesn't stop. He's so good at that. And he's good in the transport, but his accent drives me mental.
I think, again, we spoke about it with people like Sean Connery. I think sometimes...
Oh, I saw a film with Michael Caine doing an American accent. I can't remember. It's Get Carter, the remake. I'm sure it is. He does an American accent in that. And Sylvester Stallone gets to go, you're a big man, but you're out of shape with me. It's a full-time job. But I think there's at least 2 films where Caine does a really bad American accent.
Yeah,
and it's bad.
I just don't understand why people take people with really iconic voices and try and make them do something else. It would be like in Snatch. Oh, we've got Mike Reed. Let's give him a different accent. Why would you do it? It doesn't need to be done. Know the limits of the people you're working with. Don't ask them to do things that are out of their remit.
I'm a Spaniard.
But no, Wrath of Man is quite a good film. It has that gratuitous violence in places. It's an action flick, but it's got some interesting themes. I think it's not too bad. But I think the problem, Guy Ritchie always tends to veer into what he knows in terms of how he directs and how he writes, and because of that, it's very difficult to get him away from it. Like, even as we just said, the King Arthur films and the Sherlock Holmes films should be enough to make you go, oh, I can't just make Snatch again. I can't just make Lock, Stock and 18 Smoking Barrels. But I can do something different. And I think that's a little bit like Revolver. It's just a gangster film again with some more American people in it, so it feels a little bit different as opposed to...
So the one with Ray Liotta in?
Yeah. From what I remember, it's not a bad film, but it's not a great.
It's kind
film.
of forgettable, though,
it's
right?
the same sort of thing again. Rock and Roll, we said the same thing. So it's going to be really, really difficult for him to get away.
I mean, that's the thing. So, like, I mean, if you look at Snatch and Lock, Stock, that Tarantino influence, like the soundtrack, like Tarantino's famous for his soundtracks, and the soundtracks on those two films are phenomenal, right? On Snatch and Lock, Stock, it's really good.
We haven't really spoke about that. No. They are
so
fantastic.
Good. Yeah, and that's very Tarantino. He knows where to put the right music. It's so on the money. Tarantino hasn't really changed tacks, really. I mean, there is a definite difference once you get past the Rum Punch on Jackie Brown. Once you get past that, Tarantino's films become more cartoonesque. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't say he's evolved as a filmmaker particularly. Whereas Ritchie seems like, rather than, I don't know if it's like he's not fully embracing it, or whether he's just trying to crowbar it into projects where it doesn't belong. Yeah. Whereas someone like Tarantino, I don't want to say he keeps making the same movie, but they're post Jackie Brown, his movies are all very similar feeling.
He somehow manages to make it work. He somehow manages to have that style.
Yeah, so he can make a cowboy movie
in Inglourious Basterds,
exactly, or a cowboy movie in Hateful Eight, right?
And it shouldn't work, but somehow it does. And I think perhaps that's the difference between
force of will. I think, isn't
perhaps
it?
That's the difference. You know, not that we're saying that Guy Ritchie isn't a great director. He is. I think it's just
he's choosing the wrong projects.
He's not that proficient as, say, Tarantino, where he can make pretty much any subject matter, any type of movie, and his style, and it kind of works.
Yeah, well, that's it. You look at the first three Tarantino movies, they're gangster movies. After that, you get kung fu movie. You get a kung fu movie, a war movie, a couple of cowboy movies, you know, and then a 60s crime drama type movie, you know, the Sharon Tate Once Upon a Time in Hollywood kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they're all very Tarantino movies. Guy Ritchie seems
all
to
contain a lot of feet.
Yeah, God, don't they just? Whereas Ritchie seems to struggle to find the right vehicle for his Guy Ritchie-ness, and I don't know whether it's something he tries to pull back on, or whether he's just choosing the wrong sorts of projects, you know. But he pulls it off in the Sherlock Holmes, definitely in the first Sherlock Holmes movie, really pulls off that balance.
Yeah, I think both of them are both of them, but both of them.
I want him to do a third, to be honest.
Yeah, I think
they're in talks. I believe. Yeah,
I can't remember why they haven't quite got round to it yet. But yeah, I think I think on that, I don't think anybody has done Cockney gangster movie quite like Guy Ritchie. I think he kind of, whilst he wasn't the first to do this genre by any means. Obviously, we've said Get Carter, Long Good Friday, Mona Lisa, all of those.
It is a staple of British
filmmaking.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he revolutionised it in the sense of every Cockney gangster film post Snatch is trying to be Guy Ritchie.
It all has to have the witty dialogue and the jokes and stuff.
Whereas I don't
the grittier
think
stuff before that didn't really have jokes and stuff. It might have had the odd bit thrown in, but that fast-paced dialogue, those fast cuts,
so I mean, Get Carter was obviously a very very influential gangster movie, but I didn't feel like, let's say, The Long Good Friday, I didn't feel like that was just copying Get Carter and going, let's do that again. Whereas, since so many Cockney, I think the worst ones for me are like Rise of the Foot Soldier, where it's got Craig Fairbrass, who, I mean, he's doing very well at what he's doing, but it's not for me.
But you got to think like, when was Sexy Beast?
That was 2000.
Right. So that would have absolutely nothing to do with a Guy Ritchie type gangster movie. It's a movie from a completely different ilk. You have to imagine that got made because of Lock, Stock. Not that it has anything to do with Lock, Stock.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's such a good movie, but it's not trying to do Guy Ritchie. It's not doing fast-paced cuts, witty dialogue. Ben Kingsley in it is amazing.
Yeah.
Right, amazing. We're not going to go into the famous rant, that he does. But it's such a good movie, but it's not trying to be anything else. That is much more one foot in your traditional British gangster movies, your Mona Lisas, your Long Good Fridays, your Get Carters, those sort of films. Even to a degree, something like that. The Harry Palmer series of films with Michael Caine.
Yeah.
They're sort of espionage, not really gangster movies, but there's that British grittiness, you know. And like you say, after Ritchie, there's a slew of Tarantino gangster movies.
Even films that aren't gangster films, so like Football Factory, for example. I like the film.
No, I've never watched it.
If you don't like football, you're not going to... It's a football-based film.
I don't like football. I like Coca-Cola.
But it's very similar. It's very similar in that kind of the way it's kind of edited.
Yeah.
Nick Love, I think, directed it, and he's kind of poor man's Guy Ritchie, I think. Right? You know, I think there's certainly a place for his films. He's the one who done the remake of The Sweeney with Ray Winston and Plan B.
Plan B, yeah.
Because that makes sense, doesn't it?
Oh, he's in because Plan B's in that Harry Brown film. Is that what it's called with Michael Caine?
Yeah.
I quite like that movie, which is essentially Gran Torino but with Michael Caine.
Yeah,
still a good movie. It's a good enough movie that even Plan B can't ruin it. You know?
Yeah, whereas Sweeney, it's such a weird film.
I've never watched it. Who else is in it? Sorry, Plan B and
Ray Winston.
It is Ray Winston, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love Ray Winston.
Ray Winston's great, I think, but he's very. He needs a really good director to prevent him from being just Ray Winston.
Yeah.
You know, Departed with Scorsese. Do you
remember?
He's great in that.
He's really good in that. If you leave the camera roll,
such a good story.
She fell funny. So good.
You know, you really should see someone about that.
You could end the scene there.
But if you keep the camera rolling.
No, Ray Winston is amazing in that. Do you remember his TV series? He played like a private eye. Had him and...
Oh, yes.
It was really good.
Yeah, Vincent, I think that was called.
I think it was called Vincent. Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah, you look so surprised that I managed to get there.
I
think you're right.
No, whenever I mention it to people, they're like, no, I don't remember it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you know what else like people never remember is... It's loosely connected. So Michael Madsen from all them Tarantino films. And
I know Michael Madsen is, yeah.
He had a TV series that was kind of like a supernatural cop show where he was like hunting demons. And I think it only ever had once. I seem to recall it being really good. It was 20-something years ago. It might have been terrible. I used to be on late. Yeah, it used to be on late night. Because there's a Lock, Stock TV show as well around the same time, wasn't there? Lock, Stock.
Yes. And there's a Snatch TV show with Rupert Grint.
No.
And
hang on, when was that made?
That was made about 5-6 years ago.
Really?
Rupert Grint, Ron Weasley.
So they didn't learn from the Lock, Stock TV show and they tried to repeat the roaring success that was. Because I'm pretty sure the Lock, Stock cost like £1 million each episode or something. It was something huge. It was made by Chris Evans at Ginger TV Productions. Chris Evans made it. It was like...
Sorry, Chris Evans made it.
As in Chris Evans Radio DJ, not Chris Evans.
When you say made Avenger. It, do you mean his production company?
His production company made it.
He wasn't directing.
No, Ginger Productions that made TFI Friday, and I think the only other thing they ever made was the Lock, Stock TV show.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm sure it cost something ridiculous, like £1 million per episode.
But yeah, they've done a Snatch TV show, and
I'm gonna have to look that up.
There's literally no reason to call it Snatch.
Really?
It's not related to any of the characters.
What about the style of it? Is it?
Well, it's East End London, like crime, but
so it's basically Minder. Then
it's just cashing in on a namesake, and that really, really annoys me because it's like if you called it anything else, it probably wouldn't be too bad. But because you've called it this,
you've already hamstrung yourself at that point.
You're playing with fire. Yeah. But you know, Ray Winston, I know he's not in this. Seems like he would do a Guy Ritchie film, and I don't think he has thus far. Seems like this, obviously he got his name from Nil by Mouth, Gary Oldman directorial debut, and
Ray Winston. He was famous before that. He was in Scum.
Yes, yeah, oh yeah, of course he was. Yeah,
I'm the daddy now. Next time I'll fucking kill you.
That film, Scum, has an unnatural obsession with calling people the daddy. Like, I'm the daddy now. Yeah, where's your tool?
You ain't no daddy in here. All right, Carlin? I've seen that film too many times. That essentially is like another one of those British films. Do you know what I mean? Those gritty,
in the same ilk, isn't it?
It's not a gangster film, But Ray Winston also turns up in a lot of episodes of Minder playing a mechanic, and he plays like against type. Like, it's really interesting. He spends most of it being put up on, oh, Arthur, come on, Arthur. It's sort of like, so not
I'm going to have to go and dig some of those episodes
He also was in the TV show, Robin Hood TV show from the 80s, playing... No, he doesn't play Little John. Who does he play? Doesn't play Will Scarlet. I think he plays Will Scarlet in the TV show. I think he had like 2 series, maybe 3. It's on ITV Catch Up now. You can watch them all. It's called Sherwood. Robin the Hooded Man. And I think the second series of that, Robin was played by Sean Connery's son.
Ah.
Yeah, that's an interesting fact.
Yeah, thanks for that little tidbit. Oh, great.
But yeah, so I think Ray Winston's he's always been around, hasn't he, Ray? He's also in
I totally forgot that
Quadrophenia as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm surprised he's not been in a Guy Ritchie movie.
Just seems like a match made in heaven, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah.
It's, maybe one of them is going, well, that's too obvious. You know, I don't know.
And it can't be worse than his turn in that Indiana Jones film that he was in.
He wasn't bad in that.
I didn't like it.
I don't think he was too bad in that. I think that was his first kind of venture into proper Hollywood films, I think. Yeah. Or was it? No, it wasn't. I think he had a real real sort of renaissance, or I don't know if it's a renaissance. He had a real golden moment in Hollywood. Tried to break a foot into American stuff. He turned up in a lot of stuff for a while, didn't he? Yeah, what I find interesting about Ray Winston, and it's funny because we're talking so much about him, and he's not in the film we're actually discussing. But on an episode where we've spoken about Virgin Cola for so much, I think it's Anything Goes. Yeah. Hearing Matt Damon refer to Ray Winston as brilliant English actor is such a weird thing to hear, because you're like, but that's Matt Damon. Yeah, like, you're from Hollywood. Like, you're actually an actor. Yeah, and not that Ray Winston isn't, but it just I find when you have gritty English actors from that kind of ilk, it feels very much like they're normal people who do a bit of acting on the side. Yeah. And that's not the case at all. We're doing a disservice by saying that, but that's kind of how it feels. Well, it's because I think it's just like Ray Winston's been around for so long to then suddenly become sort of Hollywood famous in the noughties. It seems so odd. Yeah. It's like, because you don't have the same thing about like Colin Farrell, because he was like in Ballykiss Angel and then went off to be a movie star. Yeah. Same like, I mean, it's not saying because Guy Pearce and or like kind of Ewan McGregor or something, because he was in a Star Wars movie quite early in his career. But I think it's just like Ray Winston had been around for 20, 30 years, whatever it is, before he got his big break in Hollywood. So it seems odd because he's part of the furniture around here, and then all of a sudden Matt Damon's like, he's a great actor. Steven Spielberg's like, he's a great actor. And I bet you some of them, and he stood next to Jack Nicholson in a film. You know, it's a weird thing, man. And holding his own as well, massively, not making it go, if only he wasn't in that scene. Yeah. He's holding his own, and he's there, and he's fulfilling that purpose perfectly. What do you think about the movie stars he's probably stood next to in films since, like from your Harrison Fords, your Jack Nicholsons? Doesn't get any bigger, really, does it? You know? Yeah, those people aren't making movies anymore. Well, Jack Nicholson's not anyway. Harrison Ford keeps reprising roles. He shouldn't. When he probably should just leave it alone. And it's not his fault. I have seen the new Indiana Jones, yes. Any good? It's actually not as bad as people make out. He's old. I don't listen to people. Yeah, I don't listen to podcasts talking about movies. I didn't say that. Okay. It's not as bad as people make out. He's old. I don't know what you want. Like, what do you want from an Indiana Jones film? He's like 80 years old. Obviously, you get that. He really holds his own. You know what I mean? And obviously, I know there's a lot of that kind of de-aging CGI technology. At the beginning. Yeah. Which, from what I've seen of it, obviously I've not seen the film, but I think it looks pretty decent. It doesn't detract from the movie. Doesn't detract from it. It's only at the beginning again, as well. Like what we said earlier, you're having an excuse to use something to make up for something that you could just prevent by being bold and going, I understand. I mean, obviously, I think they tried to tease it a little bit with Shia LaBeouf. But he just wasn't the right guy. That doesn't mean you can't recast. Well, they had the Young Indiana Jones TV series that wasn't. Smashing shit up now. I'm getting angry.
That wasn't.
I really hate that program.
I never really got into it, so I don't know. I feel like the casting was off of that. I feel like the person they cast for young Indiana Jones was right, but obviously River Phoenix would have been the cast.
Brilliant.
Would have been amazing, right? Because you get that at the beginning of the third film. I'd like to see another attempt at a young Indiana Jones, but then they did that with the Han Solo. And I want to say Aaron Eckhart. It's not his name. He's got something like Alden Ehrenreich, I think is something like it. Sounds right. I think he's great in that movie.
I haven't seen that, to be fair.
Really unfairly maligned movie. It's a good movie.
I think sometimes
all of those Star Wars movies,
expectations are they're so unreasonable.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to watch a Han Solo movie, then just don't see it. But
don't go to watch it going, why is he not Harrison Ford?
Why is he not doing the thing that only I want? Because I'm a fan of this.
Yeah, I genuinely think the problem that Solo movie had was it came out after that middle Star Wars film that I forget what it's called. Who cares? Board of the Jedi, or whatever it's called.
Force Awakens, Rise of the Skywalker.
That's just Force Awakens was the first one, right? So the second one after that is...
Yeah, Rise of the Skywalker, and then the last one is The Last Jedi.
Okay, so Rise, it came out after Rise, and people were like, that's not a good movie, I'm not going to go watch this Solo movie. Plus, there was a lot of problems with the directors, they replaced them with Ron Howard, and it's actually a good movie. Rogue One's a good movie and Solo's a good movie. And I would have really liked to have seen a sequel to Solo or a TV program, but it bombed. And it wasn't the film's fault. And it had a lot of bad press and it came after a really bad Star Wars film. And it bombed. But the dude playing Han Solo is more than serviceable. He does a really good job of it. Unfairly maligned for not being Harrison Ford. But it's the same thing with that new Indiana Jones film. It's like, what do you expect? What do you think you're going to go see? He's 80 years old and he holds his own in the film. It's good. But he is old. I did see this meme where it's like, who's the lady who does all the Disney Lucasfilm? Kathleen something? Basically, like this meme where it's like, she's turned all of our heroes into broken men. Luke Skywalker's disillusioned and broken. You get to the Indiana Jones film, he's disillusioned and broken. Han Solo was disillusioned. I don't know how true it is, but I saw the meme. I actually think that last Indiana Jones film is perfectly serviceable. Is it up there with the first three? No. What is going to be, though? You know what I mean? What are you expecting to see?
Well, I think just to tie it back to...
I want to see Guy Ritchie direct an Indiana Jones film.
Can you
imagine the soundtrack?
I think, just
stop pointing that bloody whip at me.
Put your hat down and sit down and listen in, son.
This ain't your jewels.
That belongs in a bloody museum, I told you. I think
Bricktop has it.
Yeah. Do you know what the word archaeology means?
You betrayed Sheba. Kalimar.
That is what they call the Ark of the Covenant.
The penitent man kneels before God.
Me.
Yeah,
just to tie it back, I think perhaps maybe from my perspective, that's why I kind of see Guy Ritchie as never being able to escape that. It's because I've got a certain expectation of what I want from Guy Ritchie, and perhaps that's where I need to, maybe in general, that's where we need to kind of put that aside and just watch a Guy Ritchie film for what it is.
Well, Guy Ritchie couldn't keep making Guy Ritchie movies. It got so diluted by everybody else making Guy Ritchie movies. What can you do at that point?
I mean, I do remember you saying in one of the episodes we've already done,
do you ever
see another Cockney gangster? Shooter.
I mean, that is
and
exactly
then you picked Snatch, and I was like,
yeah. Well, this was the last great one.
Yeah.
But genuinely, do you ever need to see another one of those movies? Not really.
I don't think we do.
No.
So
not a subpar one, anyway.
I think that brings us on very, very nicely to things like further watching.
Yeah. I would check out Danny Dyer's Virgin Cola adverts.
For me, I think obviously check out Lock, Stock. Goes without saying. Sexy Beast is a good shout.
Sexy Beast is on my list. Yeah, Lock, Stock's on my list.
Not the same kind of I've mentioned it earlier. It's not a gangster film, but it's a gritty English film. Kneel by Mouth. That's brutal.
Oh, it's heavy.
It's, you know, nothing happens, but everything happens at the same time. I mean, I would avoid most Cockney gangster films post Snatch, just because if you're looking for something that's going to fill that void, it's not going to be.
What was the sequel? They did a sort of sequel to Sexy Beast, didn't they?
Wasn't it called The Business or something?
I can't remember. I saw it.
Did it have Danny Dyer in?
Yeah, it had Bob Hoskins in it.
I'm genuinely asking that.
No, I don't think it did. I think it was all the same cast. I think, and it's set all in one room. It's very much like watching a play. It's very different. It's not Sexy Beast. Nothing is. You know what I mean? I can't remember what it's called. I was a little disappointed. It's one of those films that I think I probably should have rewatched after it turned out to not be what I thought it was going to be. You then sometimes need to revisit a film so you can appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
I have never revisited it though, so I don't know. I had Lock, Stock, had Sexy Beast on mine, and obviously The Long Good Friday and Mona Lisa, which we've already talked about. I would add Kick-Ass to that. It's a very similar sort of tone, if completely
Kingsman
different.
as well.
Kingsman, yeah. Also, if you're in the mood for sort of a more lighter version, I actually think you should watch Only Fools and Horses. For the comedy.
Dodgy, lovable characters, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Shady people, but you fall in love with them, yeah.
100%.
I mean, you should just watch that anyway, if I'm being totally honest with you.
So good, yeah. And also Minder is definitely worth watching. If you want to see...
Write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
It's such a good theme tune, though. Yeah, if you want to see genuinely where Guy Ritchie got it from, like...
It's half a daily off of it, isn't it?
It's Minder. Like, the interesting thing about Minder, if you can't be bothered to watch Minder, which I understand, it's 1979, I think, Minder, the first series, and it doesn't quite come into its own for at least a series or so, and then you'll get to it, and it's proper. It is basically Guy Ritchie movies, but without a cool soundtrack. But if you watch the first half of the first ever episode of Minder, you'll see everything that ended up in Guy Ritchie's movies. It's just all there, all of it. Second half turns into it's sort of like a hostage, and I think they spent all their budget on the exterior shots for the first half of the pilot. You know what I mean? Had to claw that budget back a bit, but it's all there. If you watch Minder, like I say, that first half of the first ever episode is also on ITVX for free. It's all there. You can see it all. The characters, the sort of setups, the way they talk, the humour, the dodgy Arthur Daly, then his Minder. Obviously, it's different. You're talking about something that was made in 1979, but you can see those threads. So I'd recommend that. And Lock, Stock, obviously, because it's essentially the prequel, you know.
You could be forgiven for thinking you're listening to a Spaniard ordering a beer on the Costa del Sol. You could almost feel the sun beating down on his bullfighting cape. But what you were actually listening to was me, Sean Connery, displaying just one of the many accents that you too can master at the Sean Connery Dialect School for Actors. Now let me transport you to a Cold War era Russian submarine with flawless Russian dialect. This is my boat now, Captain Phillips. That was magic. You can learn this and many more at the Sean Connery Dialect School for Actors. Here endeth the lesson.
So that was Bury Our Bones With for this week. We hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed putting it together for you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us in all the usual social media places as Bury Our Bones With. So please do come by, say hi and send us your comments. Until next time, I've been Jimmy Murphy, he's been Ryan Etherington, and this has been Bury Our Bones With Snatch.
Testing. Featuring Virgin Cola.
Featuring product placements left, right, and centre that we're not getting paid for.
It's the cooler that everybody wants, but nobody can get anymore. It's been discontinued.
I was genuinely upset when they discontinued Virgin Cola.
I never had it.
Genuinely annoyed me. I was like, if you try Virgin Cola, it's like the best Cola. And then they stopped making it. And I was like, yeah, that's life, isn't it? I don't know. It's comforting to me. Ooh, I think that was alright.
I thought it was pretty decent.
Yeah, pretty funny. I did wonder if I was going to have the energy to get through it. We got to the end of the Terminate one. I was like, I'm fucking knackered. Oh, I couldn't resist it. I was like, I do know more about Coca-Cola. What other Coca-Cola things do I know?